Hello, everyone. My name's Marcia Curlin. My camp name is Echo, and I'm coming to you today from Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I work for the Girl Scouts of Northern Indiana-Michiana. I'm here today to walk you through a few steps for the Social Butterfly Badge. But before we get started, I have a couple of reminders. The first one is that just by watching the video, you won't actually earn the badge. So our hope is that you'll get some ideas and inspiration from watching what we're doing today, and then you will then want to pursue the badge on your own. So you can do that at home with family. Maybe you can do it virtually with your troop. So then you'd need to do all 5 steps to the badge to actually earn it. And second reminder is that this counts as one of the 5 presentations that you can watch to earn our new virtual program patch, which is a specially custom designed patch that we're making available for girls who watch at least 5 of our videos. So you can watch any 5. They don't have to be one specifically geared for your Girl Scout level. And it's on your honor. We don't need to know which ones you watch. So we would encourage you to keep watching. If you've watched some already, for a total of at least 5, you can register to get that patch, which will be available in a number of weeks, and also once we are back in the office working from our locations there. So something to think about. Great, so let's get started. This badge has 5 steps, and they are: hold a conversation, use table manners, be prepared for special occasions, say thank you, and practice being at ease. So I want to start off with hold a conversation. So for this step, I thought what I'd like you to try to do, or an idea would be to think of someone you'd like to have a conversation with that you maybe don't talk to on a regular basis, or especially right now, maybe someone that you in the past have seen really fairly frequently, but not so much right now. So I want you to come up with a list of questions that you could use to have a conversation with this person. So really a conversation, as you probably know, is just talking back and forth among people or between people. So think of who you might choose. Maybe it's a grandparent that doesn't live close by and you don't get to see that often. Maybe it's an aunt or uncle. It could be your teacher who you probably are seeing virtually but not face to face. Maybe your Girl Scout troop leader, or maybe the mom of one of your friends who you're really close to. So this would be somebody you could have a conversation with. And the idea is pick a grown-up, because I think most girls feel pretty comfortable having a conversation with someone their own age, or around your close to your own age. But it's a little more of a challenge for some girls, not all of them, to think about a conversation with an adult. So some ideas that I put together, and I've got this list available on our website, and it's conversation starters. I said things like this might work. So you could ask the person how they're feeling. So that's kind of a good one to start with, because we're all feeling some things maybe a little different than we would normally feel going through what we're going through right now. You could ask, what have you been doing during this time we've been at home? Have you learned to use any new technology? So that might be a really interesting one, because I think a lot of us have had to jump in and learn some new things and try some different platforms to be able to communicate or do our jobs or schoolwork. Do you get out to exercise or to get some carry-out food occasionally? And this question will lead right into maybe a follow-up question where you could say, well, what do you do for exercise? Are you getting out to walk? Do you ride a bike? Do you run? What might it be? And then carry out food. What are you getting? What are you enjoying having every so often? What have you missed the most during this time? So that one is another one that you might be able to follow up by asking them, well, why? What does that mean to you? You could ask, what are 3 things you'd most like to do when the stay-at-home restrictions are lifted? You could ask about TV programs or movies that the person has possibly been watching. You could ask them if they've read some books lately and what they've been about, and then maybe be prepared to answer with books that you've read and why you've enjoyed those. And you could ask about the weather is always a good topic. Are you looking forward to the warmer summer weather? That would be another one. And then finally on my list, I said, do you know anyone who would like to receive a note or a card from me? And why I thought this would be a fun conversation piece would be, right now there are people who would very much love to receive a note from someone like you. Not all of us have other people who we're staying at home with right now. So there might be some people who are a little bit lonely, or some people who are used to being around a lot of people because of their jobs, and they're just not right now. Think about your teacher, or someone whose job was to be with a lot of other people a lot of the time. And now they're not. Now they don't get to see those people. So they might have some ideas for someone that they are familiar with who would really enjoy a little pick-me-up. A card or a note from a Girl Scout Junior would really lift their spirits. So they might know of somebody that they could recommend for that. And then once you have some ideas for ways to start or continue a conversation, then actually carry that out. So right now, it probably won't be a face-to-face conversation. It's probably going to be a phone call, or it could be a FaceTime type of a chat, or a Skype, where you can actually see the person, and then have a conversation. Just use some of the ideas that you came up with, or maybe the conversation takes on a direction of its own. So either way, just enjoy having that back and forth with whoever it is you've chosen. And then you want to just wrap up your conversation somehow. So usually something like this works well to say, it's really been great talking to you today. I hope we can do this again sometime. And then, I really miss you, or something along those lines, depending on the person. And then you just say your goodbyes. So I want to practice with my juniors. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we can't really have a conversation specifically, but we're going to sort of pretend. So either you or an adult that you're with, if you can type some things in the comments when I ask these questions, we would really be interested to hear what your answers would be. So first off, what have you missed most about not being in school these last several weeks? What have you missed the most? Tell us what you've missed. Think about that. Another thing that you can tell me about is, what is the weirdest thing that's happened to you during this stay-at-home time? Anything really strange or unusual that you've experienced? Share that in the comments. Finally, another one to think about: what restaurant or store or attraction do you most want to go visit once we're able to do those things again? Tell us what you might really want to go do once we're able to be out and about more. So you can answer one or all of those questions. It would be a lot of fun, I think, to see what other girls are thinking along these lines. So we just had a little virtual conversation, and now we're going to step two, which is use table manners. So why this is important is we want to have a pleasant environment when we're eating a meal. We need to be polite to other people so they can enjoy their meal. And we want mealtime to be just a good time to enjoy each other's company and have some nourishing food. So I thought for this step, what would be kind of fun would be to play a game of charades. And I thought, let's flip it, not focusing on what we should do, but things we shouldn't do, because that's every bit as important. So some things we should not do at a table, at a dinner table or lunch or whatever meal table. So I, again, put together a list of ideas. These are available on our website. But I encourage you to come up with some of your own, and maybe you're thinking of them already, and you can type them in the comments. Let us know some things that come to mind when I say things you shouldn't do when you're having a meal. So what I thought would be fun was make a game out of it, write different things down on slips of paper. I've put some of mine in my basket to start with. I have a few more that I'll share with you, and then I'll add these to the rest of them. Things like you don't want to reach across the table for a serving dish or for the salt and pepper. Think about what you should really do instead of that. You want to type that in the comments if you know. Did you say you should ask for things to be passed? That's the way to do it with good manners. All right, you don't want to wipe your mouth on your sleeve. That's never a good idea. Let's don't do that at the table. You don't want to slurp your drink. That's not using good table manners either. You don't want to talk with your mouth full. I think we've all been taught that from the time we were really young. What do we want to do instead? Ideas? Put it in the comments. I hope what you would do instead is finish chewing up your food, and then you can answer a question, or then you can talk more politely. And another one, we don't want to say rude things about the food. Even if it's not your all-time favorite dish that's being served, somebody went to some trouble to make that, so we don't want to be rude about the food itself. Okay, then once you have all your ideas in your basket or your container, then gather your family around and just act out these different suggestions, these different little things not to do at our table. And I thought this would be a fun thing to do because some of them you can really exaggerate and have a great time trying to get people to guess what it is you're doing. That is a no-no. That is something we don't want to do at the table. And then once you've gone through all the different slips, you can, because there are things we don't want to do, you can each take one and then just rip it in half and just say, no, we're not going to do that. So if you want to finish up the game that way. Okay, so next we want to talk a little bit about saying thank you. So I've included, again on the website, a template, which is basically just a guide for a way that you could actually write a thank you letter or a thank you note. Some different ways that you can approach that information. So why it's nice to do this is it's just nice if somebody has given you something, a gift, or taught you something, a skill, or just spent some extra time doing something maybe above and beyond. So something a teacher might be doing to work with you. Maybe there's a family member who's teaching you something virtually right now that you hadn't thought about learning before. So whatever it might be, a thank you note is just a really nice idea. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it can be. There's actual cards that you can purchase that are specifically for saying thank you. And these are just blank on the inside, so you're free to write whatever you like. So you can do an actual little thank you note. You could use something like these fun shapes, which are just plain kind of little cardstock notes that you could write on. And often cards will come with some fun envelopes as well. These just make it fun, not only for you who is writing the note, but then for the person who receives it to have something kind of fun to enjoy when they get that mail. So a thank you note has a few different parts to it. You'll start off with dear whoever the person is, and then you want to jump right in and start saying thank you for whatever it might be, whether it's a gift or something else that they've done for you. And that can just be about a sentence long. Then you can say something a little more in depth about whatever that is you're thanking them for. So more specifically, what it is that you like about that item, or what you really enjoyed about learning something from this person, or what you appreciate the most. And then if you want to, you can say even one more thing that kind of ties it back together and why that's meaningful to you. And then you can include another line or two that just kind of switches the subject more to just you and that person maybe. That's a more general statement or sentence. And then if you want to, you can say thank you again right at the end, and then sign it with either sincerely or love, just depending on how well you know that person. So I want to give you an example. I have a little note card here, a little thank you card, and I wrote it to my daughter. So here's what this one sounds like. Dear Lauren, thank you so much for the beautiful necklace. I love all the bright colors it contains. I'll think of you every time I wear it. Then I go on to say, I miss you and can't wait to come visit you in your new home once we're able to travel again. Thank you again. Love, Mom. So it wasn't really long. It's just enough to make my point and to let her know that I really love the gift and that I'm thinking about her. So I would encourage you to think about someone who you could say thank you to. So maybe you haven't received a gift recently, but maybe you received the gift of time or the gift of someone's talent. So those are some ideas for reasons to write a thank you note. But another area that you might want to look into would be to write a note to someone who right now is doing some pretty important work while we're dealing with this pandemic. So people in the healthcare field, doctors, nurses, anyone who might be working in a hospital or clinic, pharmacy workers, people who are working in grocery stores or other essential businesses would very much like to know that what they're doing is appreciated. You might not know their names, but if you ask an adult, they can make sure that it gets mailed or sent to the right location, and it will get to somebody who will really enjoy reading it. I guarantee it. A lot of people are just doing some phenomenal work right now, and it's a nice opportunity to tell them you're thankful for that. So that would be one thing that I would encourage right now with working on this badge. That would be very much appreciated that you showed your thanks to these folks. You could do this as a troop project, and everybody maybe picks some different area that you'd like to focus on. So just a thought, but a very appropriate reason for a thank you note right now. I want to just touch briefly on one last part of this badge, and that is to think about a special occasion. So probably right now, most of us aren't celebrating special occasions in the way we might have at one time. Things have changed considerably. And if it is a special occasion that we've got in our lives, we're looking at it a little differently than we might have at one time. So that doesn't mean we can't just have a special occasion just because. So I thought it might be fun and something you might want to look into. Have kind of a fun dinner party. So it doesn't mean that you have to have fancy food, but just set a fancy table. So I wanted to show you some ideas for how this might look if you want to make a dinner or a lunch really extraordinary. So I will warn you, this does involve a lot of plates and bowls and flatware. So keep that in mind. There might be a lot of dishes that need to be done, but just to do it at least once is kind of fun. So the way we would set a table, a place setting, we want to have the napkin at the far right, or the far left, far left. So if you know how to fold a napkin in a fancy way, that makes it even more fun and special. Then we want to start using our utensils from the outside in. So in this case, there's a salad fork, and then we've got the dinner fork. And those will go to the left of the plates. And then moving over here, we've got a knife, and then we've got a spoon. So the knife is always closest to the plate with the sharp edges pointing in. Then for our plates, you have a dinner plate, which is the largest one. And then you might have a salad plate, a little bit smaller plate, and then a soup bowl. You may not have all these courses and be serving food that you'd need all these plates, but this is what it would look like. If you wanted to be fancy and have a separate plate for bread or a roll, that goes right above where the forks are, and you could put a butter knife right there going across the plate. If you're planning to have something for dessert where you'd use a spoon, you could put that right at the top, parallel to that butter knife. If you know it's going to be something you'd use a fork for, you could put a fork there instead. So a dessert fork. And then beverage glasses, you might have water and another drink. So you might have those two just kind of above where the knife and fork are located. So this would be, I just think it would be a neat thing to do. And if you do decide to have a party like that, where you set the table really in kind of a fancy way, share those photos with us, because we could all learn from maybe your ideas and how you made that look at your table. If you just want to help set the table for just a regular meal, this is more like what you would have. Again, we've got here just one fork. You can put your forks on top of the napkin. That's just fine. We've got one single plate, and then again, we've got the knife and the spoon, and then your cup for whatever your beverage might be. So even just doing that, and then you can make the meal a special occasion by maybe having a theme, or maybe the food might be something special you've all created together as a family. So those are some things to think about with special occasions. We do have a few coming up. Maybe there's a birthday in your family, but Mother's Day will be here in May, and Cinco de Mayo is coming up in May as well. So those would be fun occasions to celebrate. Memorial Day is coming up. So maybe there's ways to tie these holidays together into a way that you can set the table and have a little more fancy meal celebration. So those are some of the steps for the Social Butterfly Badge. And again, we would really enjoy hearing from you and seeing some of the things that you might be doing if you decide to pursue this badge. It really is an important one. There's a lot of good things that you can learn from working on this badge. And we'd love to know what those things might be that you decide to do to earn it. Well, that's going to do it for this presentation. We encourage you to watch additional ones that will be coming, and stay safe and healthy, and hope to see you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.